Hey everybody, welcome to Field of Dreams on NCBN TT. I'm Steve David and I'm your host. Today I talk with the presidential candidate from the Progressive
Team, yes,
Kieron Edwards. Welcome to the set, Kieron.
Pleasure to be here and to welcome to your viewers as well.
Yeah, good to have you. It's been a long time coming that we're supposed to get the normalization committee out of our island and get our football back on track. So hopefully that would happen in a few months or a couple of months. And I want to introduce you to my viewers and get a lot about who Kieron Edwards is and to know a little bit about your slate and so on and so on. So let's start with who is Kieron Edwards and give them your background on how equipped you are to handle this post.
Well, thanks again for having me, Steve, to the program. I would have seen the program for many years, for quite some time. So a lot of prominent persons on the program. So it's a pleasure to be here to introduce my slate and to tell your viewers a bit about myself. So I'm a former footballer, former player. I'm originally from the East, from Malabar. I would have played zonal football at a young age, 13, 14 years playing senior zonal football. I would have been selected to the national youth teams. I would have been a member of the Team 2001 training program. I would have not been selected in the final squad. There was a change of coach and the coach came in with a different philosophy. And I was not selected. I was cut at the final months before the World Cup. I then went on. I played Youth Pro League. Represented on the national 20 squad thereafter. Then with some misfortunes, I had to select what do I do because my parents would have passed. And I had to make a decision in terms of, do I stay in football? Do I go away and do on a scholarship because I had two offers to go to college? Or do I go into business because I had a passion for business? And I chose to go in. I chose to really go into business somewhat at a young age. So I would have gone into, my passion was recycling. So I would have gone into recycling. Then the Prime Minister at the time, Patrick Manning, would have had meetings with me and saw my vision for recycling. So I was given the opportunity to run the paper recycling for the country at a young age. Would have done that, and that would have started my passion for service and serving the country. I would have been the person to put together the program, run the program, sorting payments. So I would have been, in terms of administrating the whole program through my company on behalf of the government of Trinidad and Tobago through Swim Call. Then I was asked again to serve sometime, maybe about 2 years after that. This time on a board level with the Ministry of Sports, which I gladly accepted because football is in my passion, in my blood. I would have played zonal football while working, playing, still wanting to play football. So the zonal competition affords persons who are working to be able to go and play their football and play their trade still and be part of football and be active. So I would have been playing zonal football with Malabar FC. We would have done well enough to gain promotion to the National Super League. At that time, it had that synergy between Super League and zones. I didn't play the Super League because work kind of really consumed me at that time. So I didn't go on. I was the captain of the team that gained promotion, but I really couldn't, because Super League is a bit more demanding on the team and your training and the schedule, so I really couldn't play at that time. So I kind of came out of the playing and I went fully into administration of football. So I went on the management side of the club. It's a real family club. So my brother would have started the club. He's no longer with us. He has passed. My other brother picked up the mantle when he passed and continued as a community team. So I wanted to play my part as well, being part of the team. So I would have gone into management and be part of the structuring and gaining resources and bringing resources to the team. Sometime after that, persons would have seen what I would have done with Malabar FC and their progression and what the resources we brought to the club. And then I was offered the position of managing a professional club, which is Terminix Locketa Rangers, in early 2019, when they recently moved, they renamed from St. Anne's Rangers and moved to Locketa Terminix Rangers. And I was given the opportunity to manage the team and help with the program and the project. It was when I was told of the project by Mr. Ferguson, the owner of the team, I think it was a wonderful one. The idea was a great idea. And I wanted to play my part in terms of bringing it to reality. I think it speaks for itself in terms of the period from 2019 to now, what the club would have been able to achieve. So that's a gist of who I am. In some parts, I would have done many more other projects. Personally, in terms of administration, I would have done. I did some construction, so I would have done I had the tiling contract for the whole of the HCL One Brook Towers, so I did the tiling there. So I did a couple of projects, the E-Tech Park. So I did some mega projects under my company, which from a young age I formed and opened and ran and developed. So that's a bit of me and some of the things I would have done.
I'm glad you're here, Kieron, because just that 5 minutes I've learned so much about you. And with your experience and your footballing background, that's a showstopper, man. That's the kind of person we should be looking for to lead us into the years to come in football. And I'm so glad that we find somebody who is that involved and that knowledgeable and an entrepreneur who's run their own business and everything else. And we're so glad to have you. But anyhow, tell us what your slate look like.
Because I'm a bit young in terms of persons running for the president of the TTFA, I would have, and I like to take counsel. I like the persons to advise. I don't rush to make a decision. I have no problem with making decisions, but I don't rush to make decisions. So I like to take counsel a bit. So I have some steady heads on the slate. In terms of my first vice president is Colin Murray, someone in marketing for so many years, something that plagues our federation in terms of getting sponsors and really engaging sponsors. Colin would have done a wonderful job with Carib for so many years. He's a commentator. He's still part of the game. He understands sports, not just football, but other sports. So it was important that I got somebody as the first vice president that I can lean on various aspects of what we do at the TTFA. The second vice president is Mr. Dongna. Well, I think Osman Dongna, I think everyone would know him for so many years, former principal, former referee. I think somebody that shows the level of commitment and discipline, and someone that understands Constitution. We'd have gone through a normalization from FIFA, which one of the mandates was bringing our statutes in line with FIFA's. And now we would have gone through a process, not a perfect one, but we would have gone through a process, have the amended Constitution. One of the items is also ensuring that all our members are in line with our Constitution. So it was important to me to have Mr. Dongna on the slate to help in terms of the members, ensuring that they understand the Constitution, and we do have, because we only have 12 months to have it in line. Mm-hmm. So it would help that Mr. Dongna is there guiding. We also have Jameson Riggs, who is the president of the Super League, mm-hmm. Who I think is a young guy like myself, somebody that is in football, that understands administration, that does a wonderful job in terms of structure and programs and stuff with BP in the Miaro area. So I think it was important that not just having older heads, but having young persons that have the ambition to lead, to be on the slate as well. So we have Jameson Riggs as our third vice president. And then we brought our ordinary members to help out in terms of where we want to go with the TTFA. So we have Andrew Budo as an ordinary member, as senior superintendent of the police service. We are talking about, for many years we've been talking about crime back football to the communities. But knowing our crime situation right currently, we need some sort of partnership with the police service, the community police, and to bridge that gap. So when communities go to other communities, we don't have a situation where we have conflict and there's no mediation in between it. So we'll have those programs put together. We'll have discussions and partnership with the police service. So it was important that we had someone there that speaks the language and understands that and would bridge that gap, and so we could have that done a bit faster. And then I don't like to talk much. I like to do. Footballers are doing sport. I think we need to have persons there that would do the job. We have Alicia Austin, an accountant. Major part again of the normalization committee coming here was based on our finance.
Right.
The first ever normalization placed on a MA based on finance. So we have a qualified accountant in Alicia Austin. We also have another qualified accountant as Ryan Woons, but he's also an owner of AC Port Spain, so he understands, he's an auditor, so he understands the accounting side, but he understands the footballing side as well. And I must say, Andrew Budo as well, he's the chairman of police football, so as much as he helps with his professional background, he understands football. So it was important for us to have persons not just as professionals, but understand the quality of football. We also have Alan Logan, Central Zone Vice President, prison officer, who understands youths and programs and that kind of stuff. So we wanted to bring that mix as well. And then from Tobago, we have Shelton Williams, former Defense Force personnel. Now he is in Tobago, deals with the libraries and whatnot, in terms of, again, bridging programs for the youths, bringing them into, because it's a holistic development we're looking for when we talk about football. So we know the challenges with education when it comes to football, and we want to try to bridge that gap and have the youths, not just in football, but have something else to fall back on. So we have Shelton Williams as well as an ordinary member. So that makes up the slate of our 9, and myself as president. That's the 9 persons on Team Progressive. The slate hoping to be the next executive of the Trinidad and Tobago Football Federation.
I am very impressed with your slate, and it looked like you guys give it a lot of thought and have it well-rounded. You have people from Tobago. You have different experiences in your slate. You know. Where you get all the experience from, Ian?
I would have been in football for so many years. So I would have mentioned not being selected on that national 17 team, being handbroken. I would have worked hard to try to be there. I was the second youngest person on the team. So being young, being part of the team, really hoping that I would have been there. Thought I would have made the final cut on squad. When that happened, the general secretary at the time in the East Zone, Neville Ferguson, seeing me, knowing me for so many years, playing football in the zone from young, he would have brought me on and said, "Hey, I know you're not part of the team as a player. I want you to be part of the team in terms of the preparation for the World Cup. So we're having ball boys. I wanted to get the ball boys from Malabar, because the stadium, Narigum Stadium, was placed in Malabar, my hometown. A few houses, about 4 houses from where I live, the stadium was placed. So I'm right there. So he said, get some young boys, bring them, you take care of it. This is the schedule. So I think my administrative qualities came from an early age. I was only at 15 at the time, now turning 16 for the World Cup. So from since then, I would have managed, I would have brought them together, have them on time, have the guys knowing what to do, the kids knowing what to do for the ball boys for the World Cup, in terms of 2001 World Cup. So since then it came, and I kept building on it, taking guidance, looking at persons like yourself, being a student of the game, having discussions with persons. I love to learn. I'm a sponge, so I would always have discussions with persons, getting into football, wanting to know about the Constitution, wanting to know what's the rules of the game. But I've had many discussions with Mr. Dongna in the past. Not all the time we saw eye to eye, but it's part of the game. Being, as they say, a young bull, you want to test your strength sometimes. So I might knock heads in terms of the philosophy of the Constitution with Mr. Dongna sometimes, but was always respectful. And it's just that nature of wanting to learn and wanting to progress and wanting to make things better is where I think I got the knowledge.
You know, I always look the road ahead of me. I'll always look down the road, and to make sure I don't make the mistakes happen. And like yourself, have you ever visioned president of TTFA in your vision?
I don't think so. I don't think I would have, years gone by, would have studied to be, because I was on the board of TTFA some years back, representing the East Zone, and I never thought I would have wanted to represent. I think maybe about a year ago, about a year and a half ago, we were in discussions with the normalization committee in terms of forming the new TT Premier League. And someone came to me and said, why do you take the responsibility of being the CEO of the league? And then later on, I said, well, when the position opens up, I would apply. But we knew how that went. It was not a process of selecting or interviewing anyone. It was someone would have been hand chosen to be the CEO. I accepted it, and I moved on. And then the person came back again and said, the election will be coming soon. What's your thoughts on being the president, or running to be the president? I said I've paid it. No, I had no thought on it, but it's one that I would think about. And as it drew closer and closer, I would have been the person for years, bringing through the whole normalization process, bringing the membership together, sending letters to the normalization committee. So, for example, we would have sent a letter in 2020 to the end of 2020 to the normalization committee, outlining steps in terms of clearing the debt, which is exactly what they did. And even in terms of the Constitution, working with Mr. Dongna, working with Mr. Ferguson, working with other accountants in terms of, so that is where it really came from.
Let's take a break. When we come back, you will tell us all about when you made that decision. I am going to run and decide this is my time. Viewers, will be right back after the short break.
Change our TV to the soundboy, better stay calm, be cool.
Lego Heritage, every Wednesday at 8 p.m. on NCBN TT Television Network.
Okay, welcome back, viewers. The ones now tuning in, you're looking at Field of Dreams on NCBN TT. I'm Steve David, your host, and joining me today is Kieron Edwards, who is presidential candidate for the TTFA election, upcoming election. Kieron, again, what triggered that button off that says I'm going to run for the presidency of Trinidad and Tobago Football Association?
I really believe is when I ran the Ascension tournament. When I put on the Ascension tournament, the response from persons saying you can really make a difference. If from what you did here, if you take higher office, I think you can really make a difference. The attention to detail for the fans, for the players, for the organizers, the referees. Referees would still come up to me and say, in terms of their room for every match, no matter where it is, that everything will be put in place. They'll have a cooler, they'll have their drinks, they'll have several drinks. If I'll find out if the officials they don't drink sugar, they don't have sugar, so I'll have not drinks without sugar there. Those little things to make sure that everyone is comfortable. The sports max, this was the first time bringing sports max to senior football in Trinidad and Tobago. And I would have made sure that everything was in place for sports max on every game, from as simple as meals, as what time they reach, making sure the facility is up and ready for them to accommodate them, making sure that everything is put away after games. When we talk about fans, ensuring that all the games, all the televised games with Sports Max is one day that fans know that this day they can rely on a Friday afternoon to go home if they don't make it to the game and watch it on television. Ensuring that no games will postpone. And when we say there's a game, and those things really brought fans to trust the league and trust the tournament. So when persons saw that, they said, well, if you could do that there, I think you could do more. And I had some discussions. When we weren't allowed to do the Ascension tournament anymore, it was something that I said, well, all right, if I'm not doing that, I need to find something to do. And then they came up to tell us that the election would be the following year. And I had some discussions with persons, with my family. And I said that I believe I'll run. And that would have been sometime last year, maybe, would have been right before my birthday. So let's say about April last year, I would have decided to run and started to put together a slate.
Seems as though you pay attention to detail as well. But you got the thought to run. I know you must have think, well, what is my biggest challenge? And so I want you to tell the viewers what you believe is your biggest challenge to run TTFA football. I
truly believe the biggest challenge is the development. aspect of things. I think we have a situation right now where we have a lot of tournaments for the youths, but it's not structured. And if we intend to have it structured, because I intend to get youth football structured and development structured, and hopefully get the buy-in from the coaches, I know it would be a difficult thing for some persons. Everybody wouldn't get on board, and persons who think that they may be being left behind may have issues. I think that's the biggest challenge, to have all youth football. We have many academies would have came up in the last year, but we need to have them aligned. It must not be, football mustn't be deemed a daycare for kids. That's important to the fabric of Trinidad and Tobago, that we have proper development for the kids. Even if they don't go on to play professionally, there's opportunity for your academics, there's opportunity for discipline and a healthy lifestyle. We have heard the Minister of Health saying that Trinidad and Tobago is addicted to sweets and fast food just a couple months ago. I think if we have football and we place football back to where it should be and where it was, we could help in terms of youths not wanting to living a healthier lifestyle. It's important for me for the development of football. I think that would be the biggest challenge, but it's one that we have to overcome in order to put back Trinidad and Tobago where we were.
Yeah, and I'm thinking now, I'm sitting listening to you, and I'm thinking maybe you might be thinking, I don't want to let the cat out of the bag for other people too, but it's good to let it out, because it's all about sharing, and it's all about, you said it first. So if somebody said after you, people say, oh, they heard that from Kieron, you know? But so, what else do you think you want to do that is not in place yet?
And I want to still go on the youth side for now. I would talk about our senior football in a short while, but when it still comes to youth, I want to make sure that our tournaments, our national league and our secondary school leagues are in line in terms of the time. Everyone knows when players are moving on. We see too much that players are being banned from playing secondary schools because they would have played a youth tournament here. And I think we need to respect what we have. Our National Youth League currently it's under the Republic Bank League, but it's not tied to the zones in terms of the youth football. We have a youth elite program, but it's not tied to the zones or the secondary schools. So we need to be able to bridge that gap and tighten our structure when it comes to football. And one of it is really to reach out to the secondary schools league and tie it into our TT Premier League and protect the youths in terms of development. So even if kids want to pursue scholarships abroad, the TTFA must be able to play a role in terms of protecting that or assisting them in some way. Where we see youths going away on scholarship and the struggles of parents, it's real. Barbecue, they beg, they're pleading to try to get persons to be able to the kids to go abroad. And then when they go, good players, but when they go, they understand that and they just go, they do the school work and they go, they get a job, and we lose a player. And there's no focus on football because they think football let them down a bit in terms of getting them to the next level in terms of their academics. But we want to bridge that gap. We have quality players that would have gone to college and went on to play, Shaka Isla being one, and went on to represent our national team, Julius James recently. So we want to ensure that we don't lose those players, but we have to play a role in them going when they go to college. We have young Spencer now coming out of college, Spicer now coming out of college and playing with being the first round draft pick in the MLS with Toronto FC. So there are those opportunities, but we need to stay in touch with those kids, and it's something that we want to put together, that database, assist them, keep in touch with them. So when Coach Angasif has a team to pick, or whoever is the coach in the future, he now has that database where players, he knows where players are, and see their progression. So that's one thing. When it comes to the senior level, our persons would have said that they don't like how in the new constitution that the TT Premier League is now officially a tournament of of the TTFA. I think that's a blessing. Persons may not understand it, but that league has the opportunity now. I don't think it should always stay under the TTFA, but now in terms of our progression with football and where we are, it's important that we have some level of structure to it, and we build on it. So it has the opportunity to bring revenue to the TTFA and to the clubs. So it's a hand-in-hand project we would want to implement, where we ensure that there's a percentage split. So currently in the structure of the TT Premier League, there's one profit clubs can make in terms of gate receipts. They have not received that ever, but they say that's the way. What we need to do is sit down with the clubs and say, all right, these are the revenue streams. If it's 5 things: television, jersey deal, gates, concessions, and we work out all where there's possibilities for revenue, and we say this is the split. Clubs, you get X percent. And then we sit down and say, all right, FIFA would have done a project about 2 months ago. They would have delivered it to us. And some of their recommendations are ones that we should have been implementing from the get-go. So once we implement those projects, we should be able to get more revenue into the league. We should target a title sponsor. But when a title sponsor comes, it's not just for the league. It's not for the CEO and the oversight team and the TTFA alone. It has to trickle down to the clubs. So the clubs have to be able to know, all right, I'm putting out because I know in the back end I have a percentage of what we get. I have to ensure the product gets better, so I now benefit, the clubs benefit, the players benefit. And that's the mindset that we want to have, including culture into what we do in football. A big part of the Ascension tournament was including culture. We would have had soca, we would have had the dancehall music in Trinidad, we would have had reggae with Isasha and Orlando Octave and those guys, King David, the host of them. And we'd have included that into the football. So after the football, we'll then have a cultural show. We'd have had our young DJs being there. So it's important that we bring back culture and bring that, because that's the nature of our people. We have to understand what brings persons out. If you look at what they do in the English Premier League, the English is a pub culture, going and have a beer. Their football is built around the time when persons go to the bar and take a drink. So they create that culture, but they have football in it, and the numbers are, everybody wants to see the English Premier League. So it's important that we build that culture and build around our culture to ensure that the numbers come out, the fans come out, and we have revenue for the clubs to make it profitable and make it self-sufficient. The league, that is.
And you're right about us running the league, but what do you think, how would you answer when people say, after school, the kids have nowhere else to play football because they're not good enough to jump into that one big league that we have, and we don't have many tiers to that? So how you answer to that?
So the league has to play a role in that as well. So there's two things we will be implementing immediately into the next season of the TT Premier League. So the first thing is to ensure that we get back to those youth tournaments. So our U20 tournament or U23 tournaments or U17 tournaments for the league. So professional teams are now mandated to have youth teams. We would have moved away from that some years ago. I think that would have helped in terms of our downward trajectory. But the other thing is protecting our young players. So one of the things we want to do, and in conjunction with the SSFL, it's forming a draft system. So we would work together with the secondary schools league in terms of formulating and ranking the players. And that ranking would just be the ranking for the organizers. It doesn't mean that a player ranked first has to go number 1, or a player ranked 20th can go number 2. But that's just the ranking for players that want to work harder, to be more disciplined to their craft, and something for them to aspire to, in terms of being in that ranking, and being in the draft itself. Once that draft happens, we are currently paying through the government and the TTFA stipends to players in the league, all clubs. What we'll ask them to do is to, one, if it's 2 players per club in the draft, so we have 2 rounds, you have your first round of picks, you identify a player, you have your second round of picks, those 2 players will be protected for at least 3 years within the club and paid through the government and TTFA stipend. This would now give those younger players the ability to, as you say, who need to get their feet wet a bit before they actually move on. That 3-year period gives a quality young player enough time to get acclimatized to the league and push on. At that time, you fight for your pick. So that we continue to protect our younger players coming out of secondary school. And even if they don't take part in secondary school, so for example, the draft in the US, players from Europe, but they want to play in the league could be part of the league. So players not playing in secondary school league, maybe from Miaro or Toko, going to school, going to trade school, but could play football, they could also form part of the draft as well. So those are some of the things we intend to protect our younger players going forward.
Well, how do you answer to that at the end of the season, I could play for whoever. I'm free to go anywhere else. No protection that the team have on any player. How do you protect that? That's part of our plan for the future with the league. So the league has to be deemed a professional league. Currently, our league is an amateur league,
right. And that is the loophole that allows players to be able to move. Within the FIFA acknowledges 2 groups of players in terms of their image rights. Amateur players and professional players. Amateur players cannot be barred from moving from left or right from any club. You cannot deprive them of making an earning. That's how they look at amateur players. So you can have an agreement with a player here, and the window comes up, and he says he wants to move to your rivals. And it's nothing you can do as a club. And that's a challenge. We need to be able to fix that if we are looking at being perfect. And that's where the revenue comes in. So the first thing is having players contracted year-round. If a club knows that they have revenue coming in to be able to contract players year-round over a couple of years, now we have contracts for 2-3 years. Under a professional system, players can move as they please. And that's important in terms of the development of the league. That's important in terms of what we want to do in terms of sending players abroad. So currently, when we send players abroad, you may be looking at a development fee because we are not a professional league. If we become a professional league, then now we would have the ability to sell players and earn a professional wage, a transfer fee, proper transfer fee for the clubs here. That changes the game in terms of self-sufficiency. The clubs being self-sufficient, that changes the game in terms of where players want to be, the level of professionalism of players, because now they understand that the club is really looking at selling you as a professional player in a professional way. So I think that's really where we need to go as a league to ensure that the league becomes a professional one.
All right, I'll tell you what we do now. We take a break. But when we come back, let's get into some of those issues that we have that you want to change. And so we can point us a couple of them, and we can get into what's in it for our national team going forward. Viewers, will be right back after the short break.
Hi, I am Nigel. Quote Me Today is your daily motivational segment to start your day right. Join me Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. right here on NCBN. Remember, wake up with a smile. Today is your day. That's why when we festin', we just bed hard when we jammin', we just jam down when we drinking, man it's strong rum, eh. Pop a bottle right now when we festin', we just bed hard when we jammin', we just jam down when we drinking, man it's strong rum, eh. Pop a bottle, push up your hand.
Trinbago Heritage, every Wednesday at 8 p.m. on NCBN TT Television Network.
In a land far, far away, deep in the heart of the city of San Fernando, lies a place right out of every child's dream. Rides, slides, foam, and fun. Nigel Cotiers presents an Easter Adventure, Fantasyland, on Monday, April 1st at Monrepo Recreational Ground, Monrepo, from 1 p.m. to 8 p.m. It's an Easter adventure like none other. The ultimate Easter experience for kids. There'll be a wet zone, so come and splish splash. You can slide the whole day, and of course, the dry zone with bouncy castles, train rides, slides, obstacle courses, and a whole lot more. This is not an April Fool's joke. Bring the kids and the entire family to enjoy Easter Adventure Fantasyland on Monday, April 1st at Monrepo Recreational Ground, Monrepo, from 1 to 8 p.m. The rides are free. Food and drinks on sale.
I feel like I'm running tongue again. Jump and shake the ground again. Play with all my friends.
Nigel Cotier presents.
Okay, viewers, welcome back. Kieron Edwards is in the house, the new TTFA presidential candidate. Kieron, I like how that sounds. Presidential. I had to say it, candidate. And I'm looking forward to good things from you. Anyhow, so let's get into some more things that we short in, or things that we need to look at, or how we can make money to keep our stuff going. And off the top of your head, give me some ideas that you thought about and things that you were willing to throw in.
So, for example, you will be judged, as being the president of the TTFA, you will be judged with your national teams. Mm-hmm. No matter what you do with the other programs, the youth development, if your national teams are not going well, and primarily the senior team, if your senior team is not doing well, you'll be judged on that. Persons want you out there. Something is going wrong that our senior team is not doing well. So it's important for us to make sure that our senior team and our national teams are doing well. But that's the number one area in terms of revenue persons seem to overlook. So, for example, our FIFA forward funds comes from what our national teams do.
Right.
So we have 10 items that's identified in the FIFA 3.0 funding, giving you 50,000 US a piece that you need to accomplish before the 30th of April every year. Mm-hmm. And all of them are aligned to our national teams and national programs, youth football, for example, making sure our youth teams play a couple games, 4 games a year, making sure our senior teams play 4 games a year, that kind of stuff. All of them are in line. So that's 500,000 US from our national teams alone. And then we have an additional 650,000 that we get at the start of the season to help in terms of running courses and programs in terms of the FIFA forward. So that's off of FIFA alone with our national teams, ensuring that all our national teams are functioning. You're looking at about 1.25 in terms of revenue. When you look at qualifying for a World Cup, so our men's senior team is starting qualifiers in June. Ensuring that team with Coach Angus Eve qualifies for that World Cup is important. With that comes sponsors. With that comes TV rights, and you then build on it. So yes, the foundation is important to build the foundation, but we need to understand where the revenue is coming from. So we have to support our national team. We have to support Coach Angus Eve, ensuring that he qualifies for the World Cup, so that the team can bring in revenue for the rest of the organization. So that's important. But there are other areas in terms of bringing revenue as well, other teams outside of the senior team. So, for example, our beach soccer team and our futsal teams are maybe 2 games away from qualifying for a World Cup in futsal and beach soccer. We need to put some resources there. We need to put some emphasis there to have those teams in training, have them better prepared, have better coaches assigned to them so that we can qualify. Because you do get revenue from those teams qualifying for World Cups as well. More than just qualifying for a World Cup. The beach soccer, for example, we are on a twin island, and there's the potential of Trinidad and Tobago hosting a beach World Cup. As soon as maybe 4 years from now, 6 years from now, having a World Cup hosted here. It's important that we develop the facilities. Within the FIFA 3.0 funding as well, there's a funding for facilities. Beach soccer facilities don't take that much to develop and build. And it's a focus of our executive once we are put there to now develop our beach soccer facilities. There's one in Couva in Trinidad currently. There's 2 in Tobago, the better one, Turtle Beach being the better facility. But Maracas Beach is a great place to have a beach soccer venue. I can see a World Cup final holding in Maracas Beach where persons will come, enjoy it, and we can really maximize and sell our tourism as well for Trinidad and Tobago. So it's important, and that's a mandate for us as well in our manifesto, ensuring that we have a beach soccer World Cup hosted here. That now brings revenue into the TTFA, brings revenue into Trinidad and Tobago as a whole. So those are some of the things in terms of getting revenue into Trinidad and Tobago. Qualifying for at least 2 Youth World Cups. We would have seen the under-20 team recently competing. But when you hear some of the issues, you're realizing it's just about preparation, a little more preparation, a little more paying attention to the details, the fine things, ensuring that the guys are better prepared for those. Because we have talented kids. But we need to one, support them, give them resources, and then we could push them to want to do more. We would have seen when the 4 times we would have qualified or played in Youth World Cups, our teams with Molino and Danny Cyrus and the under-17 and the under-20 that played in the World Cups back to back, they would have been playing in the Pro League. They would have put them in the Pro League and had them building synergy and competing against teams and figuring out stuff. But that would have been a process over months. When you look at the team 2001, I would have been around that team for years. The chief would have been here in Trinidad for years, from maybe under 13 having the squad together and building that squad and building that synergy. You would have seen it in the performance of the team. And when you look at back in the day with Yorkie and that group, they were together from maybe U13, they were together, playing together, knowing each other from young. We need to go back to building synergy with our youth football guys, understanding. You will always have guys coming in because development changes and persons have growth spurts and that kind of stuff, and players coming to the squad. But the core of the team would be there. And even with our senior team, we need to ensure that we have a core, a local core. Persons would have looked at the 2016. But we need to analyze those things, and you would have mentioned paying attention to detail. Those are the things important to me. When you look at the core of that squad was local. Most of those players, although to the end of that campaign, a lot of them were abroad. But Ben Sancho started that campaign playing with San Juan Jabate. We had Sid Gray, we had Otis Whitley, we had. A lot of the guys would have been playing, and that would have been the core of the squad. Kelvin Jack was local here right before the World Cup going out. So when you look at the squad, our squad was a local squad. Angus being part of that early squad. Ansel Elcock coming back and being part of that early campaign for 2006. We have to understand where our strengths lie. Guys coming back into the squad from abroad, they need to come and fight for the spot. It's not an automatic pick. But we have to develop our local, we have to develop the league better to ensure that our local guys are playing more competitive football at a higher level locally. and ensuring that squad stays together and you develop that synergy. When you develop that synergy and players coming into that squad, it's a brotherhood. And we develop that going forward. Another key component with what we do, it's now, and it's the way of the world, having players that have parentage, not just parentage, but grandparents from the country playing abroad. We'd have been left behind by Jamaica because of that. Jamaica would have gone on and brought in Antonio and those guys, and Gray, and their squad is a bit more, their squad is a bit more advanced than our squad at this point. Not in spirit and not in heart and in fight, because you see it when we do play them. But they are a bit more advanced because of the quality of players that is playing in the English Premier League day in, day out. And that's important. We need to get our players back top flight. That brings a level of corporate interest. You have the likes of Dwight York and whatnot. Sponsors want to be part of that. They want to be part of being in the stadium when we have international games. We need to bring back that level of football. And it starts with one step. As I say, one drip by drip, you fill the bucket. We need to, each pillar, we need to build on those pillars, and we'll get to the top of the mountain at some point. And it's important.
You know, as a player, I level my thoughts, because that's what makes me what I was. I give people trouble because I can play on both sides of the ball. And I want you, my advice, to and I know you have it, but you just didn't mention it, to play on both sides of the thing. My favorite team in the world is the U.S. women's national team. That's my favorite team. Anybody playing, if that's on, I'm turning that off. I turn that whatever off, and I turn that on. And we had a women's team that was very close to making a World Cup and missed it. 3 games they had to make it to go, and they didn't. So I want you to talk about your plans for the women football, because I think that's our best chance at consistently making it to the World Cup.
When it comes to the women football, we have to work with the Wolf in terms of developing a league, a proper league. We have to strive. Canada now announced having the start of their women's league. I think it's 2026 for the start, so they're in the planning. We have to sit down with the Wolf and plan a professional. What are the steps we need to get a professional league? If it means now targeting younger and starting the youth program, so we're saying in 4 years' time we'll have the core of our women's league coming from here. It's important. If it means sitting down and saying, all right, Trinidad and Tobago would be now, let's put it as the mecca for women's football, and say that the professional league will be here, but it's for the entire Caribbean, so we get players from other islands, and we get buying from other presidents and MEs for the league. That's an approach as well. But it will now help develop our players playing, our female players, looking at football as a career. I think it's important that the females, and we're seeing it around the world. When I mention national teams, I mention national teams across the board. I don't look at it as male or female. I look at national teams across the board. And the same attention has to be placed on the females. You'll see the US now where they're talking about equal pay. The same pay that the men's senior team is getting, the women's senior team has to get as well. We have to look at it in the same line. The same bills, our guys have the same bills, the same families the females have. So if we're looking at having the league professional, we have to take that serious. And it's something that I would take serious in terms of ensuring that it's not we're giving them a stipend when we're giving the males a salary. If it's a salary across the board for professional football, it must be equal amongst both women and men. So that's the idea behind it. And it would be in our manifesto in terms of a clear pathway for women football, and having women football be professional in Trinidad and Tobago.
I don't think we're ready for women professional in Trinidad. We're way far from that, but I think developing our women programs and stuff, because we're way back in the world behind. and Wolf needs to come through the TTFA, which I think they are.
Well, they are a member of the TTFA, but they run their league independent. They would have, this season, the TTFA would have assisted with their league, but they're primarily independent organization. But we have to work together with the Wolf too. And when I say a professional league here, it's not, the Caribbean needs a women professional league. And then if we take the lead in terms of having that done in Trinidad, we would obviously be the benefits or the primary beneficiaries of having a professional women's league in Trinidad. So that's the mindset in terms of what we hope to achieve within our 4-year mandate, even if to get it started.
Yeah, we have a lot of work to do to get them to that standard,
of course,
to compete with the rest of the world. But yeah, that is in the forefront, of course, to make it happen. What else you have that you would like to see happen? That I know you big on generating and revenue, making, because you're a businessman, getting revenue so we can fulfill our dreams in seeing big crowds and like you said about the professional entertainment with the games tied into how we can get people there and stuff. And that is a big part. So your thoughts are in the right, area or going down the right road. But making that happen is not as easy as it sounds.
So some other things we want to do is in aspects of coaching and referees. So we have an issue, and I'm not shying away from it. We have an issue currently where persons have issues with the referees in terms of the officiating of the games. It's important for us to be able to sit with the referee department. We haven't had a referee committee for many years. I think that's the start of the problem. Not having the committees to assist the referees department in terms of what happens when we have rogue referees, what happens when we have referees constantly dropping the ball, how do we treat with them? And it's important that we lift the game and support the officials as well, ensuring that the officials have the resources and the training and the time. We know having officials look at it a bit more professional is important, and giving the younger officials an opportunity to see where they can progress in their profession of officiating the game. It's important. When it comes to coaching, how do we educate coaches? It's important. So we're sending out, we are doing A license, B license, C license for coaches. But there's no real follow-up behind and in terms of our coach education for coaches. So we give them a license, send them out in the world, would have gone through 2 weeks or 3 weeks of training, B and A a little longer. But there's no department really following up on our coaches, going and see what they are doing, ensuring that the correct development is there, giving them and just giving them that helping hand. There's no other profession in the world that would just certify somebody and send them out immediately. They would always you have your mentoring. You have to have mentors. You have to have that internship in terms of doing certain things. And we need to ensure that we have coach educations to assist those coaches, mentors that they could easily access in terms of assistance for programs and how they structure their seasonal programs and yearly programs. Although you have a license or B license, there is somebody to send, all right, this is the program for the year, this is how we're looking to play, these are the achievements. So it's important for our coaches as well.
Okay, Kieron, we run out of time now, so any parting words that you would want to share with our viewers?
Yes, I want to tell the viewers that we would have gone through a rocky patch in terms of football for some years. They would have seen our football being normalized. But I think our slate and the executive and the members of the TTFA are committed in terms of bringing back excellence to the TTFA, bringing back excellence to football, placing us back where we used to be in the Caribbean, in the world, getting us back to being part of the international stage with World Cups. And we are committed to that. and we would not stop until we achieve that, and we intend to achieve it once we are elected by the membership to achieve that within our 4-year mandate.
I want to thank you for being here, Kieron. I want to ask the viewers to support you, because I think you have good plans for us, and hopefully we would see you as the president of the Trinidad and Tobago Football Association, and give my regards to your whole slate. Thank you for being here.
It's a pleasure to be here, sir.
Okay, great. Viewers, thank you for tuning in every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock. We do appreciate you. NCBN TT, thanks for the opportunity. We do have a Facebook page, you can check us out, and we do have an email address, fieldofdreamtt@gmail.com, where you drop us a line. This show has ended. Go in peace. I'm Steve David. Good night.